Yeah, you read way too much Twilight.
That's fiction, okay? This is real. He's a real monster, and he's not brooding or lovesick or noble. He's the shark from Jaws.
It's on you to look out for them. Because there are a lot of bad people out there, Charlie.
Welcome to Midnight Cinema. I am Art Hennessey in San Diego.
And I'm Peter Vincent, and I like drinking green shit. No, I'm Erik, Rodenhiser, and I'm in Salem, Massachusetts. We all talk like this, apparently.
This week, as you can tell by Erik's introduction there, we are talking about Fright Night 2011, the remake of the 1985 film Fright Night. For those of you who listened last week, we talked about Fright Night in depth. It's a really good podcast. Go back and listen to it if you haven't seen the movie in a while. But this week, we're talking about the remake that was made in 2011. But Erik, that wasn't the first Fright Night movie that was made after the original, was it?
No, it wasn't. And I was actually so excited when I discovered that there was a Fright Night 2, and it was still with William Ragsdale and Roddy McDowall. So I was like, yay! But I only discovered it because it was on video. I couldn't find it. It didn't really make a big movie appearance, unfortunately.
Yes. It was not released that widely in theaters in the U.S. There was some change in the studios that had it and the distribution, I think. It just didn't come out very heavily. Yes,
and you think it's just because they weren't interested in the movie, but they were. Like the star of that movie, I forget her name, but she left another movie to be in this one. Roddy McDowall, wicked excited and everything. And then what happened was, I have it here in notes because I forget people's names that I'm not that interested in art. But they had a meeting with Jose Menendez, who was he was like the live entertainment chairman. And they were meeting with him for distribution and all that. And then his two sons murdered him to death.
Menendez.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, they murdered him to death.
Wow.
And then it didn't get any distribution. There was nothing like that. So the film just kind of went and died. So I always wonder what the rating would be, what it would have got if it had nationwide distribution, but it did not. It died like a vampire being staked through the heart.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I did not remember it coming out in theaters. And this would have been the late 80s, Erik, and I think you're like me. I was going to the movies a lot back then, but I don't remember it coming out. And that was what was interesting to me. And now I find out it's because of murder.
Murder. Yes, they murdered their dad. But I really wanted to like it. And I think sometimes with a sequel, as you know, they're like, let's do something more, or we're going to do pretty much the same thing. And where I thought the sequel failed is that they tried to be a little more funny and it didn't work. And the vampire, although she was like sexy and enticing, she was Jerry Dandridge's twin sister, FYI. She didn't have anything going on. There was no real personality. And then the other vampires that were there were almost like, how can we do more? Let's have her come with different vampires. And one of them was like a Brian Bosworth type of heavy guy that eat bugs all the time. And then there was like a dude werewolfy type of guy. Mm-hmm. And then there was, which at the time I didn't even think about, which is kind of cool now, is there was a vampire named Belle. And it was an androgynous vampire on frickin' roller skates.
Yes, which is a concept that I can imagine was interesting to them. And you can think of the visuals and you can see how they style it with the cloak and the rolling on the roller skates into things. I'm not sure it completely was executed well enough, but it is, like you said, an interesting idea. And then also with the lead vampire, when she was first introduced, she flies down and then suddenly she's on top of the car. He's in the car with his girlfriend and she's on top of the car and she just sort of reclining and relaxing and listening to them in the car. But at first I was like, oh, maybe she's quirky a little bit. But as you said, as the movie went on, it's like they're like, oh, she's sexy. And that's her one thing. And they tried to repeat beats, which happens a lot in sequels. They try to repeat beats. We have the nightclub scene. We have the
the party.
They keep
she was a performance artist, and they repeated things. It's like, how many times does Peter Vincent have to get fired from his job? Right?
Correct,
I mean, it just didn't. And the werewolf guy, I'm calling him a werewolf because he kept turning into like a werewolf, but he was a vampire, but he replaced Evil Ed. That was supposed to be the character. And it just didn't work. And the girlfriend was just not interesting. She was like a super smart kind of it didn't go anywhere. And the psychiatrist was like, I'm a vampire now. I mean, it was just, tell me about I forget what it was, stupid. And then what I also didn't like was when they decided to dispatch, go after the vampire, they killed those vampires so easily. It just, it does. I'm like, come on, guys. If these vampires if her goal is to make Charlie her slave for the rest of his life, she was horrible at executing this thing. And then the big fight at the end was not, again, she died so easily and it didn't work. And then you could tell that the sunlight at the end, and it was down an elevator shaft this time, it wasn't real. It just wasn't, I wanted it to be so good. And there were good parts, but it just was for me.
We should point out, not the original director. He was not available. He was making Child's Play with Chris Sarandon, who was our head vampire in the last movie. And that's why they weren't involved in this. However, I do think the movie is sort of, you can see they're trying to direct it like Tom Holland probably would have directed it. The lighting looks good and everything, but it doesn't have the tone that I think you and I really liked in that last movie, that interesting tone they split between horror and comedy, but also the special effects in this movie just don't stand up to the original movie at all. They're doing a lot of stop motion and things when vampires are melting. It's like, but it seems to me done fast and on the cheap. And then they're trying to, I think, with perhaps early computer stuff, enhance it with some smoke and things like that. And it just doesn't come across with the same sort of set pieces that it had in that original movie. So, like you said, a disappointment. And I don't think even Tom Holland, the creator of Fright Night, which we should say, he created that story, the director, last time, and he made it. He probably wasn't that high on it either.
It just, I know we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but one of the things that I think I was going to watch it again just for you, Art, because, I'm that way about you. But I'm not that way, but I'm that way that I would please you just so I could use it against you later. But there's a bowling scene, and isn't there a bowling scene with the vampires where they kill people and they're bowling?
Yes.
I thought, why is this in the movie? Why are you having this stupid bowling scene? And why are the vampires killing people like no one's ever going to come in the bowling alley?
Well, the vampires show up in that movie, and then they go on a killing rampage on this college campus / apartment complex that Peter Vincent lives in, adjacent to the... And I will say it was fun to see Roddy McDowall in this character again. He clearly loves playing this character. I think that's why he's back, right? And I really enjoyed him.
I'll point out Roddy McDowall is amazing. And the thing I wanted to say, every time he goes, Charlie, I think of him as in Planet of the Apes going, Zira, Charlie, Zira. So, but I love Roddy McDowall. There's nothing, I don't think I've seen a movie where Roddy McDowall doesn't shine. But it was stinky. But watch it, though. Those of you who liked Fright Night, find it on YouTube and watch it, because at least you'll learn that vampires don't like roses.
Yeah.
You don't take anything else away. It's like, don't give vampires roses because they're hurtful. They hurt them. Yeah.
But then it's many years later that we get announced a remake. They're going to remake Fright Night. So had you heard about the remake before it came out, Erik? Had you sort of heard rumblings that they were going to make it?
Yes. And once again, Art, I'm getting those little goosebumps, because when I heard they were remaking Fright Night, I'm like, oh, please, and let it be good. And then I saw the trailer. I'm like, okay. And Colin Farrell as the vampire, not Colin Firth. Not, oh, hello, I'm the vampire.
Now I want to see that movie.
Yeah, I'm going to bite you on the neck if it's not too much trouble. But yeah, so I thought, okay, good choice. And then I really like the lead character who had a short career, but Charlie.
Anton Yelchin.
Yes, Yelchin. Anton, yeah. So I was very excited. I indeed was.
And so I did not see this when it came out. I saw it for the first time for this podcast. I went in not knowing anything about it. And so when the movie starts and I start seeing the characters, I'm like, oh, Colin Farrell's in this. Anton Yelchin is in this. David Tennant is in this.
Yes, Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Number 10.
Because
all you nerds out there.
Because after last week's podcast, and I was thinking about this movie, and I said, okay, I'm not going to watch a trailer or anything. I'm just going to go in cold. In the beginning of the movie, they show on the TV Peter Vincent in a Las Vegas show, and I'm trying to figure out who it is that's playing him. And it took me a while through the movie to figure out who it is. You said...
Yeah, Doctor Who.
Yeah, we should say, when the movie starts... and we're getting credits. You get the credit. This was written by a screenwriter, but it is story by Tom Holland, meaning the script is close enough to the original Fright Night that Tom Holland gets the story by credit because it's based on the original Fright Night.
Because it's the same characters. It's Amy's in it. And what's the actor? I don't see enough of her, I don't think, but I thought she was awesome.
Imogen Poots.
Yeah, Poots.
Poots.
Yeah,
now,
she kept that name, Art. She kept Poots. She's like, you know what? I want to be called Poots.
Yes. Now, I remember Imogen Poots and Anton Yelchin from another really gnarly horror film, Green Room. The two of them, they were in Green Room. So let's dig in as far as the differences and as far as what we noticed. And the movie starts, last week we talked about Fright Night starts with that great opening where you sort of introduced to all the characters right away in that opening scene. And this starts differently. We're now in the 2010s. So the way horror movies are constructed now, they've got to have some sort of killing or something right off the bat. So the movie starts and we have somebody running away from a vampire that we don't even know who this is. And remember, I'm watching the movie for the first time, Erik. I'm like, is this our Charlie? I thought what was going to happen is we were going to see all this and then we were going to get one of those like 6 months or 5 days earlier. And I was actually thinking, oh no, because I kind of don't like that. But that happens. And then we start to get the opening proper of this movie where you're going over a subdivision, in the Las Vegas desert.
Yeah, it takes place in Nevada. And I remember that opening scene too. And what I liked was they kind of had this, just like the original movie, they kind of had this fun, like it's a movie that's not such a horror film, but it's got some fun elements to it. So when they do the music going over the Nevada plate, whatever it's called, all those houses that I would never move to. The music was kind of a little funnish. So I thought, okay.
It had an organ, like an old horror movie organish sting to it in it there. It would pop in. And we're in Las Vegas and that's the setting. And somebody calls it out in the movie. What a great place for a vampire. People work all night and then sleep all day, just normal people who have jobs in Las Vegas on the Strip. So I was like, okay, this seems good. And we're introduced to the Charlie in this movie. The story's sort of already happening. We don't know that yet when the movie starts. So we don't see Evil Ed right away like we did in the other movie, but he's already had sort of adventures in a way that we haven't seen yet.
Yes. And shout out, I was remembering what you said last time with Fright Night, the original Fright Night. And you're like, oh, I wish Evil Ed had more. And I think what they did was this one, they're like, you know what? We're going to show you Evil Ed more of his personality and stuff. And Evil Ed and Charlie were best friends. They weren't really best friends in the other movie, but what happened is they started growing apart because Charlie wanted to be kind of with the cool group and Evil Ed, who I felt bad for, still wanted to play, like dress up in costumes and fight each other with fake swords. Squid Man, Yes. So it really fleshes out that character of Evil Ed. And I thought they did a good job with that. It was a good reason. You could see why they grew apart. And they kind of made Charlie a little bit of a, can I say it, dickhead?
Yeah.
Dickhead? I'm saying dickhead.
Yeah.
Can I just say dick? Head. He was a dickhead. I want to see how many times I can say that word. Maybe you'll have to bleep it out.
I was excited watching. I was thinking, who's going to follow in the footsteps of Evil Ed from the first movie? How are they going to do this? And then we get Christopher Mintz Plus. I was like, okay, that's good. I wouldn't have thought of that casting, but there he is. And
great choice. Great choice. And also we want to point out that Amy was not as naive. Almost, I think Imogen Poots was playing Poot.
Imogen Poots, don't we all?
She played it. She was herself, and it worked. She was playing sort of close to her age. So I thought she was great. And she was a little self-aware that she was sexy and stuff. Well, similarity, which I'm sure you knew, is our prostitute in the first movie is now replaced by not a prostitute, but a next-door neighbor who's a go-go dancer, which I love. Amy says she's a stripper. No, she's a go-go dancer. Yeah, just 2 pieces of clothing and she's a stripper, or something like that. But I thought that was the sexy neighbor.
It is.
So she was like the hooker in the first movie.
Correct. And right away, they're playing with the themes of being in high school, sexuality. We see Charlie's arriving, and the first thing we're seeing is this woman who lives across the street who's a go-go dancer. We don't know that yet in the movie, but she's sort of looking at him like, oh, you're all grown up, Charlie. You're looking good. That kind of a vibe. Yeah. But it introduces those sort of themes. And I did like how we meet the mother. She's a realtor, so she's taking those things and very clearly stakes. They have they're white stakes, almost like the last movie when Charlie was gathering those stakes. And Toni Collette is playing the mom.
Yes, and my one of my kids, my son Phoenix, pointed out, he's like, Dad, that's the person from what's the movie? Saws her head off. It's a great movie.
Oh, Hereditary.
Yeah, he's like, that's her Hereditary mom. I'm like, yep. And he goes, does she always play moms? And I went, oh my God. She does now. Yeah. But she was great in that. She was great, she's great in this one, Fright Night. I really liked her. I liked the introduction. And I like the fact that, the single hot guy is moving in. And let's say, as a cis male that likes female, I'm attracted to females. I was starting to change my mind with Colin, because damn,
Colin Farrell is a sexy vampire in this movie, but he's a different type of sexy vampire than Chris Sarandon was in the last movie. We have now like a hunkier sort of, to make that he does? He's a contractor or something.
He's a contractor. He works
t-shirts.
He works at night. That's why he has to paint the windows black.
Yeah. Gone are Jerry's sweaters from the last movie, all his sweaters. Now it's t-shirts. We're out in the Nevada desert.
Yeah.
Tank top t-shirts. Yeah. And he enters the movie, and not only is Charlie's mom flirting with him, but Amy's immediately, ooh, who's that? It has that little flirtation. Yeah. And you can see the threat of this older man seducing you see Charlie's uncomfortableness. He's like the third wheel in this little triad of these women are clearly attracted to this man physically. The vampire is living next door. And we should say in this movie, it's flipped from the 1985. Amy's a little more sexually aggressive than Charlie is. As a matter of fact, I would say it's almost completely flipped, wouldn't you? Like, Amy
that's one of the things that I want to point out that's different that they did in this movie is Amy, which I think is great. She's the aggressor, and she's like, come on, Charlie, because she's sort of the cool kid, and Charlie is just now getting into this cool group. She has more knowledge than Charlie, and she's ready to go. She's like, hey, come on, it's no big deal. So I really, really like that. And I also want to point, while we're talking about the differences, is the next door neighbor is hauling a bunch of concrete out. And the mom was upset about it at first because, she wants the neighborhood to look good. But we just want to point out that he is hauling an unreasonable amount of concrete out of the house. So something's going on, because this isn't like a sprawling mansion type of thing. This is just one of those cookie cutter houses that looks like every other house.
But also, Eric, I know at the last movie you pointed out when Charlie first looks out the window and sees the two people bringing in the coffin and one of them is carrying it with one hand to show the strength of the vampire. My thoughts went to like, he seems to be working by himself and there's all this concrete that's coming out of the house. He doesn't seem to have a helper, which we should say in this movie, there is no Billy Cole in this movie. They kind of have dispensed with the Billy Cole.
This guy's on his own. And I will point out that Colin Farrell, again, doing a little homework on this one. And I'm blaming you, Art, for making me think that I should do some homework instead of just winging it. So can you not do that, please?
Okay.
Thank you. But I did do some homework, and Colin said that he had a hard time playing this character because he didn't know how to approach it because he said the character does not have a soul. So he didn't know how to play it. And when I rewatched it with that knowledge, I was like, that's why your energy is mostly stagnant, because he's pretending in a way to be a person, is what I thought. Not like Jerry was witty and had emotion and stuff. This guy's just like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, good for you.
It's a type of dude, and he's very deliberate about things. You pointed out in the last movie that Jerry was a little into the like playing with his food type of thing. He liked to play games and jump around and move to different places. And there's a little bit of that here, but he's pretty direct. He just goes right in for the kill if he needs to.
Yeah, and I will say that this movie gets into reasoning. Like when Jerry moves in next door in the original Night Fright. Night Fright? Did I say Night Fright? It's like a mirror.
Night Fright.
In the original, Jerry, you don't know why he's moving in. He's just moving in to the neighborhood. But this guy, what you learn throughout the movie is this guy has a plan.
Yeah, which we're going to find out later from Peter Vincent. And so we haven't even talked about Peter Vincent in this movie yet. Yeah. So Peter Vincent, what they've done to retrofit this is he's no longer a sort of washed up, aging late night fright host. He has a show on the Vegas Strip, almost like those magicians like Chris Angel or David Blaine. I don't know if you've heard of those guys.
Oh,
yeah. They have those magic shows where it's all fog and they have the eyeliner on. And actually, Jim Carrey did a very good parody of one of them in the movie The Amazing Burt Wonderstone. And so our Peter Vincent is one of those type of performers.
He's made a career out of it. And he's also made a career out of being a very knowledgeable in the dark arts and especially vampirism and demons. So he's a major attraction. And two, scholars go to him to ask him questions about the occult. And he's an asshole. He's like, I'm Peter Vincent. I don't give a shit.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, Charlie has to go to him for help. But and like you said, he doesn't believe in any of it. And he's made sort of a fortune doing this but what we've seen is he's actually collecting real antiques. These aren't fake. He has a whole museum of them in his penthouse apartment in Las Vegas. It's a pretty impressive setup that he has.
Which is a nod to the original Peter Vincent, but the original Peter Vincent had movie memorabilia from his stuff. This guy has like artifacts.
Yes.
So he's got a cross that supposedly was in the crucifix of Christ, and he's got a cup filled with holy water and things. I love things that he says he buys on eBay. eBay, it's good for everything,
Yeah.
Like vampire stuff, you can just get it on eBay.
And he has sort of an assistant, this woman, Sofia Vergara's sister, I think, is the actual actress.
She's great. She's great in it. She
is so great that I wanted more of her in the movie. I should say they dispatch her as if she's not important. And I was a little sad because I was getting to like her, and I wanted her to be in on the climax of the movie. I wanted her to be coming along because I think her and David Tennant as Peter Vincent actually had kind of a funny relationship between the two of them.
All right, that would have been great if they didn't just they killed her off. It was like not even important enough to see her die. But
on screen.
Wouldn't that be so cool if they were together at the end? And he's like, "Give me the cross," and she's like, "Get it yourself. That's a stupid servant. Here, get this." Gives him the finger.
I was looking forward to that, actually, so I was a little disappointed. But Charlie goes over to explore. He hears the scream at night, a scream, and he goes over to explore, and he finds that there's this secret passage with these doors that go down, like a few doors, and they all have keys, and immediately I'm thinking, oh my gosh, who's behind all those doors? Are there vampires behind those doors? But they seem to all have the keys in them, and one doesn't, and it's the woman from across the street that's gone on a date with
Doris, like a weird name for
Dora. It was a weird name. Yes, it was Doris, and she is clearly frightened. Charlie's trying to get her out, and we get to witness Jerry feeding on her, and I guess the idea is that she's going to turn, and you see all these other doors, and you're like, so is Jerry like a serial killer vampire? He's going to keep all these people. And what we learn from David Tennant later in the movie is he's probably building a tribe. The type of vampire he is, David Tennant tells Charlie, is they're tribal. So they need to build a pack almost. And maybe that's what he's doing in that space.
Yeah. And you kind of it gets a little lost because I'm paying attention more to movies now. And again, I want our listeners to know that I really love you and respect you and everything. But also you changed my world in ways that I didn't ask for. And so, God, give me a break. But yeah, so now I'm paying more attention and I have to go, oh, I see. You don't have enough of that information. They give it to you, but not enough. Is that, oh, this is a vampire that is making a nest. And so people that he drains of blood, then they're not dead. He's kind of hoarding them as vampires. When somebody gets killed, I have to think, but that person's not officially dead. They're a vampire. So I thought there was an interesting concept where they're trying to make it like, okay, this is a predator that is going to destroy this entire town and make it all vampires, is what I thought. Kind of like a Salem's Lot type of thing.
Yeah, and I think in that scene, too, it's just interesting because, as I mentioned earlier, when Doris is first introduced to us, there's that sexual tension or she's flirting with Charlie a little bit. Oh, you're so strong and everything. And then we're watching Charlie. Charlie is watching Jerry, literally the sexual metaphor there, having sex with her from behind the door as he's looking. And this movie, like the last one, I think is playing, you pointed out the last one, a lot with this peeping Tom voyeurism that they're carrying over from the first movie where Charlie was watching a lot through the window. And we're seeing that again here where Charlie's hidden and he's seeing this. Yes. And it's pretty graphic, and she puts her finger up to her lips to Charlie to be quiet. But
what does that remind you of? What does that remind you of? Because I think that was a nod to the original movie.
The original movie, when he did that to her.
Right, when the vampire said to her, she's doing it to save Charlie's life. And I thought, oh my God, the women in this movie are much more powerful. They're not as much a victim. Because even her, she's getting attacked by this guy and she's looking out for Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's a good sequence, I will say, Erik, because he's trying to get her out and he's bringing her downstairs. And there's this great sequence where they're downstairs and Jerry is watching TV. He's watching The Real Housewives. Did you notice? He's watching with a beer. He's just sitting there in his tank top or whatever, watching The Real Housewives. And they're sort of having to maneuver around while he's getting a beer. It's around his bottom floor of his house, and they're just out of view. And I actually did not see this coming, Erik. It's dawn, and they get outside, and you're like, oh my God, he made it. And she immediately just zaps and disintegrates because she's now enough of a vampire that she's gone. It got me. I have to say, I did not see that coming.
Good, because it was a good effect. It was a really good effect. It was CG, but it was a good effect. And I don't know if you noticed, but her leg was left over. I'm like, why is the leg still there? There was like
I didn't notice
the bottom part of her leg is still there. I'm like, why? Is that the part the blood didn't reach? I don't get it. But I thought that was a great thing. And I love the fact that Jerry knew all along. And he does this thing, which I kind of like. He eats apples, just like the original Jerry.
Yes.
I thought that was interesting. He drinks beer a little too much. And then he does this thing where he sniffs the air. He goes, like he sniffs around. And it's not over the top, but he just like is smelling, like he has a sense of smell where people might be. So he does that a lot in the movie. He's like a sniffer. He's a vampire sniffer. Vampire.
And so whenever we see him do that, we kind of think he's on to Charlie. And so I do like that Colin Farrell performance. And one of the best set pieces of his performance is all about that idea of inviting a vampire into your house. And he comes over, this is early in the movie, and he says to Peter, hey, can I borrow some beers? And Peter knows he can't invite him in the house. And you can see what Jerry is trying to do. He's trying to get over the threshold of the house. And so he comes over, he's standing awkwardly at the threshold. Peter's trying to get the beers and Peter drops a beer and Colin Farrell is not going over the top. He's just, hey, do you need some help with that? Or, hey.
Yes, he does a great job because you can tell that there's an energy at the door that Colin Farrell makes very obvious that he can't cross it because you can see he's like, I know I can't do it. But you feel like there's some barrier there. And I forget which movie it is, but there was one movie where they pushed a vampire through the door and you saw the results. And I thought, oh, good for you guys.
And then he starts saying these sort of bro-y things about how you got to handle a woman. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah. It's gross. And the things I'll point out about that is Colin Farrell wanted to make changes to the script because he thought that his character was too like a sexual predator and what didn't like it. And they said, nope, we're not changing it. So he had to do all those. It's really unnecessary. Does he even have sex? I don't think he does. I think his sex is the drinking.
It doesn't seem sexual like it did in the last movie. It seemed a lot more sensual. We used the word sensual in the last movie to describe some of those turning scenes and the things that we see. This seems a lot more aggressive and when he's in these scenes. And yeah, and those lines. So what I was doing, Erik, watching that was thinking this is just like Erik. This guy is just like Noah.
Absolutely, everyone. I was acquitted. So
I was like, who do I know that this reminds me of? And it took me a while. No, I'm just saying that.
Wow.
I
think you meant sexy. You were thinking sexy.
Yes. Well, that part of it.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
and that was the last podcast that Art and Erik did. It was really good.
But it did make me think last time we talked a little bit about how the original Fright Night had some sort of confused things with this adult vampire and the sexuality with the woman who's clearly in high school. And then watching this, I started to say, this is confusing things too. This is throwing a lot in here about a type of male sexuality, a type of, like you said, grossness to this type of male sexuality that it threw me off a little bit. And clearly every woman that meets him is kind of attracted to him, including Charlie's girlfriend, Amy. But I don't know what you were thinking as far as how we're supposed to process that as far as what the movie's trying to tell us.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, Art, because when I watched it, every time he said something, I went, oh. Like even at the beginning when he's looking at the mom and the girlfriend, it just was gross. And I thought, well, this vampire, you don't like him ever. Because Jerry Dandridge, you felt sorry for him when he said, I'll give you something I don't have, a choice. You're like, oh, there's a person in there. And this one, anything close to that would have been like, I'll give you something I don't have, bro, a beer. I need a beer and a girl. But why is he like that? It doesn't make sense as a vampire. He's not, his goal isn't to, like, his goal is to get anyone, males, females, he gets them all. But he was particularly gross with females. But I did get in this movie, which I talked about we didn't get last time, was I did get a full bite out of male vampire and a male victim, which was Evil Ed. He took him down.
Yes, the Evil Ed turning comes pretty quickly in this movie. I was surprised how they moved that all along. Evil Ed in this movie, by the time the movie starts, is already on to Jerry. He's been watching him. He's been videoing him. We haven't seen this yet. We see this later. It all happens very fast. It was an interesting decision by the filmmakers to kind of front load that before we've even jumped into the movie, so that Charlie discovers it after Evil Ed has disappeared. Charlie discovers Evil Ed's footage where he's behind a car and looking at the vamp. That's the thing they do in this movie. He doesn't show up on video. So we see Evil Ed's footage and we see the car door opening and he doesn't show up on video. But this would have been the time when we had a lot of Cloverfield and these types of movies were all, and it made me think about that. They're inserting that into this movie. And so Evil Ed gets turned. It is a good scene. He's running. Evil Ed could jump fences. He can hop fences faster than a vampire can hop fences. But then we see he gets in the pool. And like you said, I actually wrote in my notes that I liked that scene when he comes into the pool and he gets him.
Yes. And I will tell you that, again, doing some homework is that, well, one they did that you can't come into the house without being invited because he's done all his homework. And he knows that vampires don't like crosses and garlic. And he knows all that stuff. So he breaks into this empty house while Jerry's pursuing him. And he goes, haha, you can't come in. You're not invited. And Jerry walks right in and he's like, yeah, you got to do a little bit more homework. That's this house is abandoned by the owners. And also the beginning footage, while you're talking about Evil Ed, of that kid getting dragged and, his parents dead. That is Adam, who was his other best friend who went missing with the parents. And so they go into that kid's house and there's no blood. There's nothing. There's just nobody in there. So, and the thing I was going to say about the shot that you liked was because Steven Spielberg directed that at least one shot of the cross floating down towards the camera. That was Steven Spielberg.
Really? I had seen, in doing my research, I had seen something that Steven Spielberg contributed storyboard advice and some stuff to this movie. But I didn't know if that was just a trivia or something. But that scene in the pool I liked. And the fact that he had some doesn't surprise me. There's a scene where he falls from the second floor balcony and then Colin Farrell's just sitting there waiting out in the lounge chair. And he says, ooh, that looks like it hurt. Now we know Evil Ed is turned, so we know he's going to come back. It sort of starts to escalate like the original Fright Night did. Yep. It starts to go into like a big, long climax. And one of the things that I liked was the mom's involved, at least Toni Collette is involved. And it's a very stressful situation. Jerry's coming over, and Jerry has a very good ruse when he says, your son broke into my house. I'm going to call the police. And there's a great moment where Charlie's looking at his mom and going, no, don't let him in. Don't let it. And the mom trusts Charlie and says, well, then call the police.
Jerry. I thought that was awesome because my problem in a lot of movies is the parents are like, no, that's silly. And they never believe the kids, especially when they're younger. And they didn't believe that Jerry was a vampire, but the mom saw that Charlie was so upset that she's like, no, go, well, then call the police. And that's where you say, Art, that is where the movie ramps up like the original Fright Night. And I thought the following scene, when I first watched it, I was like, all right, wow, that's cool. So I really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, Jerry just goes for it. Jerry is like, I am going to kill you or turn you or whatever. And he just comes into the backyard, starts shoveling huge chunks of the yard. Huge. Every shovelful is just a massive thing of dirt, and they're inside the house and they're thinking, oh, we're safe, we're inside the house, he can't come in the house, and he blows it up
he
so
uses
that he can get them
a lighter and he takes a hair dryer or something. He's like but the way that I talk about the strength of vampires and stuff, which I always enjoy, is like you said, when he's shoveling that stuff out like it was it was surreal. And then he pulls out the pipeline and lights the house from the inside on fire. And I love how the mom was like, what the fuck is he doing to my lawn?
Well, it was like, it was all acted really well, and it worked really well. And then it just sets off. It's a chase scene in a car, and they did a oneer with like the rotating camera, like you would see in Children of Men was the famous scene. You know, they're going down the highway, and the camera's set in the middle of the car, and it's rotating around while it's continuous. And we don't know where the vampire is. And a motorcycle comes flying through the back of the car. And then he's underneath it, and the hand is coming up. You could see in some of those effects. I don't know. You must have noticed this throughout the movie. Did you see it in the theaters, Erik? Did you actually go to the theaters?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Did you see the 3D presentation? No. Because you could see the parts when the hand comes up through the bottom of the car and the claw is going like this. And when he was shoveling the big chunks of the yard, those chunks are flying up in the air. And watching it in 3D, they must have been flying around.
Well,
3D.
I had to stop after I watched in the theaters Parasite 3D with Demi Moore. Demi Moore, like one of her first movie roles. And I thought, this is 3D. I'm glad I didn't see in 3D. But I will point out one of the callbacks, which they didn't do as good a job, and I think there were probably nods to the original movie, is they did show shots of his hand a lot, but the creepy hand wasn't as creepy. You first see it at the beginning of the movie when he picks up like something off the ground, and I'm like, oh, is this Jerry, or is this a different vampire? But
so this car chase is fantastic. And just the way the car, you get this feeling, the setting too, that opening we mentioned of this subdivision that's sort of in the middle of nowhere, but you have to take a highway to get into the city. So once they start taking off down the desert, there's nothing around them. They're alone with this vampire chasing them in the car. And then he crosses the road, he cuts them off, and he gets out of the car. And I love it. Like you said earlier, Charlie goes, hit him with the car. And she puts foot on the gas, and she just completely rams into him. She's just doing what Charlie's asking her to. She's trusting her son. It's really good. And then you must have liked this. So in the middle of this car chase, we have a guest appearance from our vampire from last movie.
Yes, and he's playing a character. He comes out of the car. It's probably, I think he has maybe 30 seconds of screen time, right? Mm-hmm. But Chris Sarandon, because they stopped in the middle of the road, he hits their car. I mean, pretty hard. And he gets out of the car and he's like, what the hell are you guys doing? What's going on? I thought that was great. And then Jerry number 2 lifts the car up and comes out from behind the car, and he's like, oh, and he just lights into Jerry, the original Jerry Dandridge, whose credit in this is JD.
I didn't notice that.
And he just takes him out. And I thought, good for you, Chris Sarandon, for doing a nod, like saying yes to that. Yeah. Well, he did a great job. And here's what I'll tell you, Art. I like the movie a lot, but where it failed, and where I think a lot of movies fail, is like, let's do CGI. Let's do vampire transformations, but they'll be CG because we can do a lot more with it. It did not do a darn thing for me when Colin Farrell, Jerry, is starting to turn into a vampire. For the first time, we see him really scary, but I wasn't scared. I would have rather seen them just do some kind of prosthetic, and then he bites, takes out JD, Chris Sarandon, and then he's back to normal. But they just went full CG, and that's the first time I was like, in the movie.
It's going to be a problem getting into the climax. There's going to be a lot of death and a lot of dismemberment, and I agree with you. I think the movie's coming up short in some of these effects compared to the original movie. I'll agree with you there. Yeah. Because here we see, we talked about the last movie, the vampire has his cool, everyday persona. But then when they get angry or they get injured, they turn into these creatures. And Colin Farrell, he's in his creature vampire mode at this point. And then Toni Collette stakes him with the real estate sign from behind, right through. And he starts to do, it's like a herky-jerky creature that's sort of hobbling around because he's injured at the time. And I don't think that was completely successful, but I like the idea that they were going for.
I did like that bit because, one, I like the fact, the nod to the cross thing, because Charlie puts out this big cross and he grabs the cross and it catches on fire, and he does this thing. He's like, ooh, ooh, like it's a little hot, but that's like one of the only, it's not that funny, but then Toni Collette, again, the strong female, stakes him, but misses his heart. And when he did that creepy, it's like almost like a Exorcist reverse.
Yes.
I thought that was really cool because it shows you that he's not a person. He's a monster. And then they take off, and I forget what happens, but they hit his car, and his car flips over on top of him and crushes him even further. But as they drive away, which they didn't do in the other movie, is they showed how vampires can regenerate quickly. So you could see him sort of snapping back into place. And I thought that was creepy.
And let's talk a little bit about something you just mentioned, Erik, where you said you see he's in this state, he's an animal. He's a predator. And is it Evil Ed early in the movie? They call out and they say, he's like Jaws.
I think Evil Ed said it. He goes, because Charlie's like, stop reading Twilight. And he goes, this isn't some glistening, vampire. He goes, this is like the shark from Jaws.
Right.
And then he goes, and I'm so upset that you think I read Twilight.
So in this melee that happens at the car accident, Toni Collette, which I was kind of disappointed in a little bit, gets knocked out of the movie.
Yeah, you had to kind of.
I know.
Do that.
But I was enjoying her being on the team with them at the time. So we get sort of a regrouping at the hospital, and they got to go try and get Peter Vincent to help them. That's the only person who possibly can help him because he has all those vampire killing things, right? He has all those tools.
Yes. And
yeah.
I also, I forget where it is in the movie, but when Charlie poses as I don't know, I'm not sure.
A reporter. He poses as a reporter.
Yeah. And he meets Peter Vincent for the first time. And you know that Peter Vincent he's a dick. Like, he was a nerd who became super famous, but he got this black hair and the goatee and all this sexy stuff.
It's a very Russell Brand thing that David Tennant is doing. It's almost like he's doing an impression of Russell Brand.
Yeah. But then when he goes to be interviewed and they go up to his gorgeous penthouse apartment, he starts peeling off all of this stuff. Like, he takes his hair off and his mustache and stuff. And now it's just David Tennant. And he's wearing these leather pants. He's like he's snapping at the leather pants like they're chafing.
One of my favorite parts of the movie. And one little thing on that, I love how in the credits, when they were doing the credits at the end, that they were doing freeze frames of scenes from the movie. And that was the one for the costume designer, if you noticed at the end.
Yes.
It was a freeze frame of that.
The credits, I did write down that I watched all of the credits because I loved what they did with the credits. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, so Amy and Charlie go to Peter Vincent's penthouse.
I think Peter Vincent doesn't want to help them at first, just like the original Peter Vincent, because he's like, this is all bullshit. But what we find out is, no, he actually believes in vampires. And so he does tell them to come back because he sees a photo that Charlie left of this old drawing, and it's the same drawing that he has, which is the cult of this vampire, or the not the cult, but the tribe of vampires. So now he believes them and invites them over.
Yes.
And that what I think you're alluding to, which I think is what I like about this movie. There's funny moments, but because of the acting and the actors, it's not like, look how funny this is. He gets a phone call. Peter Vincent gets a phone call, and it's like midnight or something. He's like, you have a package for you, sir. And he's like, all right, yeah, bring it up. And then he goes, sometimes, when I get drunk, I order stuff on eBay. Good stuff. And they go, wait a minute, it's a little late for delivery. And then they all go, oh, shit. And Evil Ed shows up.
Yes. And we saw earlier in the movie when Charlie was sneaking around in Jerry's house, we saw in that closet, right? We saw the UPS type shirt hanging in the closet. Evil Ed's come up with this package.
And that's when the girlfriend that he's fighting with all the time, That's where she answers the door, and that's the last we see of her. She's just a corpse on the
Yeah.
floor. I was like, oh.
I really missed her. I missed her from the movie. But what we learned is Peter Vincent has a safe room, a vampire safe room in his penthouse apartment. He goes in there and locks the door, and so he's stuck inside there. And that leaves Charlie and Amy outside to deal with Evil Ed.
Yeah, who chases Peter Vincent to the escape room. He's like, no, you don't, you big pussy, or something like that. And he reaches his hand in, and the door to the security room cuts off Evil Ed's hand. So right away, he's like, oh no, he's got one arm.
It reminded me a little bit of those great moments like with the Raggedy Ann wig in the last one where Evil Ed like takes it off. They're going for that type of humor with him. They're trying to tread that line between this is scary and dangerous, but also evil. You can't help but kind of be amused by him. I think the original movie did that better. I felt a little more frightened. And here in this movie, rather than the last one where Peter Vincent is the one facing off in the big duel with Evil Ed, they give this conflict, they give this fight to Charlie. And that's a twist from the last movie, which is what it needs to be because of the groundwork that they laid in this movie about the friendship. But I still think in the end of this, as we're fighting, I wanted a little bit more to feel a little bit about that. I thought I didn't quite get to the emotional point that I wanted to, because I did feel bad in the first movie when Evil Ed dies as a werewolf and he's turning. Remember, we talked about how much pity we felt for him in that moment. This, I didn't get that feeling.
Almost.
Yeah.
What I like is that Charlie told Amy, he's like, don't worry, we can get out of here. There's more than one way out, and there's plenty of stuff to fight with. So we're like, oh, right, there's plenty of stuff. So they use that stuff to fight Evil Ed, and because he's a vampire, but he still kind of doesn't know what the heck he's doing. He gets almost his head chopped off. And
because what does he say, Erik? He said something about bone. It's hard to cut.
The bone's tough. You missed it. But then when he's trying to bite Charlie, he can't put his head back. So he's like, I'm trying to bite him. And then, of course, Amy's not sitting there doing nothing. She hits him with a freaking flail, like, mace with a chain on it. Bam! Hits him in the head. And I think I agree with you is I wanted more, and they had time to do it, but they just didn't, is when he finally stakes Evil Ed. Evil Ed turns from this wise-ass, pissed at Charlie. He says before he dies, he's like, it's okay. And then he dies. But I wanted him to say a little bit more, but they just, as he was saying that, his face turned into ash, and you really didn't get that, my gosh, poor guy.
Yeah.
They just kind of killed it.
Well, and then we're going to be off to the nightclub, right?
Jerry had followed them there, and Amy is the one who helps him get out because she throws holy water on him.
Yes.
And so it gives him time to get out. Yeah, and they go to the nightclub.
Gotta have a nightclub. We don't have the same music from the last movie, but
I'm also, where is the nightclub? Because they live in this suburban thing and they have to drive. There's a nightclub.
Well, I think they're driving into Las Vegas. I think that David Tennant lives in Las Vegas. Okay. I think a lot of these acts, performers that have these residencies at casinos in Las Vegas literally live in the casino on a big apartment or penthouse. That was the idea I had. So there's probably 7 nightclubs in that casino, yeah. Right? To me, it made more sense than in the last movie where there was suddenly this really big nightclub in the middle of nowhere. He goes in there. So right away, okay, the nightclub scene, we're going to see Jerry's in there. There was a cool shot where suddenly Jerry's hanging from the rafters and he's looking down, almost like a gargoyle looking over the nightclub scene. And I was wondering, nobody's seeing him up there? I guess
it's a nightclub, man. It's Vegas. Everybody's on the ceiling.
But he's gonna have the seduction of Amy.
But this one was different because Amy, you again felt that predator. Like, I don't like this guy. Especially the way he's treating the women, he takes advantage of his strength and masculinity. And he bites his own finger, smears the blood on his lips, and then forces a kiss on her. And then she gets in a trance. So it wasn't at all sexy. And then he picks her up and carries her off. unlike the original where you're like, "Ooh, geez, they're doing this sensual dance here." It was.
Did you say they even did a little nod here to the shot from the last one where he sinks his teeth in and that blood went down her back? But you're right, Erik. It didn't feel the same as the last movie. You felt a little bit more that this was him taking her and not her willingly going into this. But now we're in the same situation. Peter and Charlie have to go and get her. But just like the last movie, Charlie's got to convince Peter to go because Peter's scared.
Yeah, but
And
why is he scared this time? Not just because he's got a specific reason.
Yes, exactly. They give a little more vampire backstory to Peter Vincent this time, which is that
his family, his mom and dad were murdered by a vampire when he was little, and he survived by hiding. And that's what caused him to go on this thing where he researches all about vampires and stuff, and then eventually becomes this magician. But Peter Vincent's family was murdered by a vampire. And guess what? That vampire was Jerry.
Right. And because earlier in the movie, I got these feelings. We talked about male role models and the types of male sexuality or masculinity. And here there was this interesting back and forth with Peter and Charlie where Peter is talking about his father not being there, his mother gone, having this taken away from him. And I started to put together themes of, is this movie themes of fathers, sons, role models for masculinity. And also I will point out when Peter describes what happened to him, it kind of mirrors that opening scene that we saw in the movie, only the kid in the opening scene, he didn't make it. But Peter decides that he's gonna help, and he has all this equipment. So we see them gearing up and utilizing this equipment, making it into things. And Charlie looks like he's going in on a SWAT operation or something, or special forces going to get, Yeah,
he suits up big time, and he's got
which we have comes into play. You're like, wow, Charlie is really suited up with this outfit, and we're going to understand why in the climax.
Yeah. And then they go into the house, and I think there was a little nod, if I'm not correct, to another movie, Salem's Lot, which I think I mentioned before, is when they finally find where Jerry's coffin would be. There's a drop in the floor. They find a drop floor, and that's where he took out all the concrete, and they have to actually almost fall down. And remember in Salem's Lot, there was a trap where they went in the stair, and then that you see that there's this whole underground, almost like caves. There's things dug out and there's bones, and they both go like, oh shit. Well, while they're looking for Amy, but they don't have to look for her because she calls out. She's like, help, help.
And she's in the white dress that we saw in the last movie, call out to the white dress. Yeah.
Yes, but the white dress was there, like when she was during the car scene, she was in an outfit. The white dress was underneath it, and she had like a jacket on top of it. So that was her kind of outfit. And then they just changed it into, they're like, how can we make it look like that without making her change her outfit? Ta-da! And she's all, she comes out, same thing. She's all sexy, but not much different. I will say, all right, it could be because of the other movie, but I was looking, more than I should at her transformation, her possible anatomic transformation. And I swear that they padded her to make her a little more.
I should explain for people who maybe haven't heard our Fright Night 1985 episode. Amy in the first movie literally did, when she made the turn into a vampire. This is true. They padded her breasts to make them a little more fuller in that. And so Erik was just doing research for the podcast to make sure that we're catching everything.
Yes, I even told that to my wife. I said, no, I'm just doing research on this. And it's, it's for the podcast. It's for the listeners. It's not for any other reason. So
we want to make sure that we're covering all the bases.
I had my eyes halfway closed when I was doing the research.
So yeah, like the last movie, she's sexy, try to seduce Charlie. So Peter Vincent is struggling outside because coming out of all the walls of this place are, I guess, what we're supposed to think are people that Jerry has turned over the centuries? Like,
No,
or just recently?
I think this is recently because they didn't make any. I was looking long and hard at different people coming out, and there were no differences in the hairstyles of the clothing. And I will point out that one of the characters who was, I don't think was a well-known star at the time, was one of the sort of bullies.
Dave Franco.
Dave Franco, who's now a vampire.
Yes.
So yeah, they're all coming out of there. And what I love about that scene with Peter Vincent is that he's got this rotating medieval stake launcher, like a gun. And he's like, yeah, and he's shooting the vampires, they're exploding, and then it fizzles out, and he goes, fucking eBay.
Yes.
Yeah, and then they start biting him and going after him.
Yeah, they're really converging on him. And it reminded me a little bit of, in his stage show that we saw a little snippet of at the beginning, there's a scene with a lot of women vampires converging. And I kind of got a call back to when Peter Vincent is lying on the ground and all the vampires, or real vampires this time, are starting to sort of converge on him. And Jerry's is Jerry in that mix? Yes,
Jerry is there because he deliberately separates Charlie from Peter Vincent, and he thinks that Amy's going to kill Charlie. So he stakes Amy on purpose without getting her in the heart, so she's kind of out of the way. But then when she comes back, they have this, again, awkward scene where he's like, because she's under a trance now, she's like, sucking on his chest or something like that. It was just, he's like showing again, he's doing anything he shouldn't. The gloat, the James Bond gloat that we don't like, the villain gloat. He could have had all the vampires go after Charlie or something, but instead he has to stand there and be like, hey, it's going to be dark eventually.
And there is that undercurrent. You mentioned it in the last podcast. You mentioned how Jerry's the bully. And there was that moment here where you felt how Colin Farrell's kind of like a douche in this movie. And that thing of like, look at me, I got your girlfriend sucking on my wound in my chest. There was a real power alpha sort of thing going on there. And and then we start to realize why Charlie has this head to toe outfit on and goggles and everything, why he's all kitted out like this.
Yes. I will point out that here's where the difference is that Jerry says, you think you can just destroy 400 years of survival. And then, of course, I keep thinking to myself, okay, 400 years of survival and you're still making all these stupid mistakes. Like, why did you paint the windows black? Why didn't you put wood? You're a carpenter, you're a construction guy. Put wood, really nice wood, things on all the windows. Why didn't you do that, dummy? Instead of making the windows easy to break. But he says 400 years, and then you think it's all over. And yes, Charlie remembers that vampires don't like fire. Mm-hmm. So he lights himself on fire. That was his plan all along. And he lunges towards Jerry to try to get Jerry to be distracted. Because they talked about it earlier that, fire, they really don't like fire. It kind of makes them not concentrate as much. So he knows that, and he attacks Jerry, and then they're bouncing. I kind of thought of it like it was a pinball machine. They keep bouncing around the room.
Yes. Well, we should say he not only jumps on Jerry, he attaches himself to Jerry. He clips a little carabiner on. So they're joined together at this point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which was cool. And the effects were CG flames, but it worked.
Yeah.
And then they keep struggling. And then finally, Peter Vincent throws the ancient stake. It's like this medieval stake. Charlie stakes Jerry. Wait, no, after Peter shoots the ceiling and the floorboards come down to expose the light, and Jerry's in the light now. Like,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I thought, this is cool, but I just, compared to the finale of the original Fright Night, they used so much CG in this that I was like.
Yeah, it didn't quite hit the same as the other one. And obviously we have our little epilogue. We see Charlie and Amy and they're on the floor in Peter Vincent's apartment. And Peter Vincent comes in and makes jokes about like, oh, I'm not looking. I'm not. It was just a weird little epilogue.
I forget what both things he said, but he's like, don't do anything. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. He goes, oh, that doesn't leave much, does it? And he's like, well, sushi. And he says something else. Like the two things he won't do is sushi and something else. I thought that was really funny.
I thought this was a solid movie. I enjoyed it. I didn't know where it was going all the time, even though I had seen the original Fright Night. I think the conception of Jerry as this dude bro contractor guy was different enough that it kept me engaged right from the beginning. I don't know if it confused some of the themes of the movie or if it actually had a point to it. I didn't quite figure that out by the end of the movie. I liked the performers. I really liked Anton Yelchin as Charlie. Liked Imogen Poots as Amy. I liked this Amy. I thought she was great. Love that Toni Collette was in this movie and had something to do as the mom. And I enjoyed David Tennant as Peter Vincent. I did miss the element of Peter Vincent, of him being a little bit older and maybe on the way out. I think they could have played with the idea that his act is now old on Las Vegas and not something that people are going to see focusing on. But I missed that from the other movie and seeing him sort of get reinvigorated like we saw Roddy McDowall reinvigorated. Instead here they added him touching into some old trauma that he had from the vampires back when he was there. But I think it introduced a different type of vampire, different type of setting, which I thought worked. I liked it. I would recommend it to people if they like vampire movies. I think it's an interesting vampire movie to see.
All right. Shut up. It's my turn. Yes, I agree with all that. If you haven't seen the original Fright Night, you don't have to enjoy this movie as a Zebra movie. And depending on what time you grew up or what you used to for cinematic experience, I think for me, I'm not CGI. If it doesn't have to be there, don't do it. Don't do it because you think it's cool. Did not have to be there. This film would have been scarier if they had just not done the CG. And the ending for me, when I watch this movie again, which
I will watch it again and again.
The CGI scene at the end, I don't even bother with that. Once he starts going up and down with the flyer, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm done. So that's the downer for me because the rest of the movie I quite enjoyed. I enjoy the way that they changed the movie around. If I had never seen Fright Night, would I love this movie a lot more? I don't know the answer. But if we're giving it like a rating, because, we're really good at ratings and
we're still trying to figure that out.
No, we've come up with a absolute, no, we know what we're doing. I would give it like 9 out of 13 garlic cloves.
Very good.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. But I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. And do we want to end? And if you want to cut this part, Art, you can. We could just say, no, we won't. And we'll skip it. Do you want to end on sort of the sad note about our main character, what happened to him in
Anton
real life?
Yelchin?
Yeah.
Anton Yelchin is sadly, I think most people listening probably know this if they haven't remembered from a few years ago. He passed away tragically at a young age, and he had such a career and such an amazing career ahead of him when he passed away. I really liked him. You could see where he was becoming a star.
Yes, he would actually be a superstar, and he was taken away just a freak accident with a car where it just doesn't make any sense. I would have loved to see him in more movies.
But last note on Fright Night, you probably know this. I think at this point, from what I have read, Tom Holland has the rights again, the original creator and director of Fright Night. The rights have reverted back to him. He wrote a novel, Fright Night Origins, based on the original Fright Night, and he is now in the works to make a Fright Night movie that is a sequel to the 1985 Fright Night.
Art, don't do this to me. Don't say something like that, and then don't really. Is it going to happen? Because
I don't know. I didn't want to depress you, Erik. I wanted to give you maybe just in the back of your mind a little bit of hope that you might get a Fright Night from the original creator of Fright Night.
I'm hoping that will happen, Art, and I'm hoping I'll go in with absolutely low expectations, and perhaps then I will be satisfied, because that movie, Fright Night, as we know, I love that movie. Well, you know what? If people listening to the podcast, they can certainly give us ideas like, oh, you should review this. I don't know why they're talking like that, but, oh, you should review this. You should review that. And maybe we will. Maybe we will.
So we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment or rate and review us. It really helps to get the word for the podcast out. We appreciate everybody who's listened, and we will be back next week to open up the midnight cinema for another horror classic.
Oh, you're so creepy, Art. You're so creepy, Art.